short for a stormtrooper.
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping the week's nerdy news from the Broadway stage to the USS Enterprise and everywhere in between. I'm one of your co-hosts, Mike Gibson. With me, as always, is Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, some sad news. Unfortunately, another rest in peace this week.
Yep, we are kicking things off on a sad note. Just today, I believe today, we got news that Nichelle Nichols passed away. I didn't write down how old she was, but she died
89.
89, confirmed to die of natural causes. If you're not sure who Nichelle Nichols is, we'll tell you. She was an American singer, dancer, and actress, best known for playing communications officer Nyota Uhura on Star Trek, the original series. She meant so much to so many people. She was an absolute trailblazer, a role model, a symbol of racial equality. She was one of the first Black women to hold a major role on any television show. Or a role that wasn't like some just menial background character, like she was an actual character. Really, I mean, her contributions to Black representation on screen, whether it's you're looking at specifically in the sci-fi genre, but also just television and film in general, really cannot be overstated. I don't know. Like I said, she has meant so much to so many people and done so much good for so many people and been a pillar of representation in the Black community. One story that I have heard about her before, and I wanted to retell it again. It's not like a unknown story or anything, but for those of you who may not know, at one point during the original run of Star Trek, the original show, she wanted to quit. She was thinking about quitting and going back to Broadway. And she was at some event. She even gave a resignation letter to Gene Roddenberry, like the creator and writer of Star Trek.
Wow.
She had officially quit, or said that she was going to quit. And I think Roddenberry said, take the weekend and think about it, and we'll talk about it Monday. If you really want to go, you can go. So she went to some event over the weekend. I can't remember what it was, but somebody told her, after her speech or her part in whatever event she was in, someone said, there's a fan that wants to meet you. And she assumed it was just some Star Trek fan. And it was, but this Star Trek fan's name was Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep. And he came up to her and he said, I'm a big fan of yours. Star Trek is the only show that my wife and I let our kids stay up late to watch because of you, because you're on it.
Yep. And
she told him that she was thinking that she was going to quit and go back to Broadway. And he said, you cannot do that. You absolutely cannot do that. For the first time, we, meaning Black people, are being seen by the world over as we should be seen. Meaning, like, you are part of this crew. You are an instrumental part of this crew, and you are not being treated as less than. Your character is not being treated as a lower level person, or like I said, like a background character. Like, you are a main character on this show that is changing the world, and you absolutely cannot do that. Like, everything that I just said wasn't a quote. He did say, you cannot do that. For the first time, we are being seen by the world over as we should be seen. And that changed her mind, and she went back and she told Gene Roddenberry that, and Gene Roddenberry cried, knowing that Martin Luther King Jr. thought that about his show. Because he cast that crew with racial equality in mind, and that's why Mr. Sulu is an Asian American, and Uhura is a Black woman, and all that stuff. So, like I said earlier, her contributions to the genre and as a pillar of representation in the Black community cannot be overstated. And I was thinking about this as I was writing up the rundown and including this little tidbit that the Star Trek, the original series, you and I have talked before, like, we openly admit we're not huge Star Trek people.
Right. We're far from Trekkies, but we know the periphery.
We know the periphery, and we appreciate it for what it is, for sure. And I have to say, and I've said before that I used to watch Star Trek a lot when I was younger, and it's kind of a weird thing where I don't know really why I'm not more into it as an adult. But thinking about it, I'm pretty sure that the original series of Star Trek in reruns, obviously.
Yeah.
I think well, the cartoon used to be on Nickelodeon, but I used to watch the original episodes on something when I was like,
Yeah, it was on
5,
syndication
like,
somewhere like
yeah,
that.
when I was like,
Yeah, it was around the same time like Next Generation was big, and like a currently running show, and you could find the original series in syndication on like
yeah,
whether it was CBS like mid afternoon or something. Like I remember
yeah,
watching it in the summers. I don't know why, but in my brain it was like
yeah,
summer afternoons, or like maybe after The Price is Right they ran.
right, yeah,
But it was somewhere in that. Yeah, you saw it a lot in syndication.
yeah, and I mean, in my memory, I feel like this was even before Next Generation started because I was young. Like I remember being
Yeah.
like 5 or 6, because it was a certain house that I lived in at that time of my life,
Right.
and the memory of the living room and the TV that I was watching, like when watching Star Trek, the original series, and I think that was the first like made for grown-ups live action show
Mhm.
that I ever saw in my life. Like besides like whatever, when I say live action, like I was watching like Nickelodeon shows with like real kids
Right.
or something, probably, but or like
Yeah,
Sesame
watching
Street,
like
is
Double
live
Dare or
action.
something.
Yeah, exactly. But like as far as like a scripted
Yep.
adventure show that was not made for kids, but tame enough that kids could see it.
Right.
20
Just
years
a
later.
normal drama,
Yeah.
like film
Yeah.
drama.
It was Star Trek, the original series, and I mean, it's not like it's burned into my brain as being this, but I gotta think that it, seeing that diversity in that crew at such a young age, helped me not grow up with as much prejudice as other people seem to grow up with.
Yeah.
I feel like I mean I can't
Right. There might
like
have been some subliminal like shaping or
yeah.
just the
I
exposure
feel
to
like
it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm watching that. I'm watching Sesame Street. Like those are the two things I can remember watching when I'm
Right.
that young, and both of those have incredibly diverse
Yeah.
casts and messages and things. And I just feel like, it's another way. It just goes to show that representation matters. I mean, if anyone at this point, I mean, how many times we've heard that so many times, and
Right.
it's a cliche, but it's also very true. That representation very much matters. And this is another Nichelle Nichols' role as Uhura and her legacy are another tribute to that being accurate. So rest in peace, Nichelle Nichols. You are missed by many, many people.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And now what? There's who is left from the original series? Just Shatner and
Shatner,
Takei?
George
Or is-
Takei. And I read there's a third. There's
Is it,
I don't remember his name.
Walter Koenig?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because he played Chekhov.
Chekhov. Yep.
Which it's an absolute travesty that he was, predeceased by the other Chekhov.
I know. Yeah.
So-
I don't remember that actor's name from the J.J. Abrams movies, but
I literally just wanted to say Anton, and then I realized that was Chekhov's first name.
oh.
So yeah, we're starting this pod off great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we're not Star Trek people. Sorry. We should be.
Yeah.
Honestly,
We've both
be.
admitted that both of us are like, yeah, exactly what they're going for is right in our wheelhouse, and yet
Yeah. And especially something that's so acclaimed as Brave New Worlds, which is out now, that
yep.
I haven't read one bad thing about that wasn't from a racist.
Yep.
It seems
Yeah, and every Trek
it seems
you have
insane.
talked to,
It seems insane that I'm not watching Star Trek shows constantly, knowing who I am and what I like. But I don't know. Here we are.
yeah, I think
Here
we're
we are.
both just trying to hold as much free TV time for this onslaught coming up.
Oh yeah, that's true. Also, I don't have Paramount Plus, so that's
That'll do it. I have it for
that's a
Champions
big-
League Soccer, so it comes in handy.
Then you have no excuse.
I have no excuse
my
at all.
friend.
No, outside of time.
I have one flimsy one outside of time. Exactly. Yeah. Time is actually a pretty good excuse.
Right. You have a $5 to $6 a month excuse.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Considering the onslaught, like you just mentioned, the onslaught of nerd or genre shows, that we are currently in and are also wading into simultaneously, time is definitely a good excuse, I think.
Absolutely.
Speaking of wading into things,
I see what you did there.
It's loose. It's a loose connection.
We'll give it to you. I think it's there.
Speaking of wading into things, specifically bodies of water that you live in, did I make it better or worse?
A little bit of both.
Worse.
Little bit of both.
All right, we got some. Obviously, this is a bit of a lighter week for a couple reasons. One, San Diego Comic-Con dropped last week. We talked about it last week and in 2 mini episodes. So, all the nerdy news pretty much dropped then. And, it'll pick back up as weeks go by. But the absolute biggest thing that happened this week, I believe, is something that I never thought that I would see happen. We got confirmation that Ben Affleck will return as Bruce Wayne in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Aquaman 2, sequel to the billion-dollar making Aquaman, is going to have some kind of role, some kind of appearance by Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne. Now, why did I not think this would ever happen? Because Ben Affleck has said a few times that he's done playing Batman. He said that after Zack Snyder's Justice League, I'm done playing Batman. Then he said, I'm going to go back and play Batman in The Flash. Now he's returning not as Batman, but as Bruce Wayne. At least we know Bruce Wayne. We don't think Batman based on everything that was going on. This was revealed by Aquaman himself, Jason Momoa, on his Instagram after, this is pretty funny, after a Warner Brothers Studios tour group happened to drive by the two of them together, either rehearsing or filming on the back lot of Warner Brothers Studios. Just like random people that paid to get the tour saw Jason Momoa and Ben Affleck dressed in his cool Bruce Wayne suit. And Jason Momoa even says, if you can go on his Instagram and watch it, it's still there. He even says, like, I guess the cat's out of the bag now. Can't keep it a secret if the tours are driving by at the same time and we're filming this or whatever, and then posted pictures of the two of them together.
Which is funny because in those pictures, Affleck is, as you mentioned, in his
he's in the
straight up Bruce Wayne suit.
Yeah.
And Momoa's just chilling in a t-shirt.
Yeah. Classic.
It's like, okay.
Arthur Curry. Yeah. So this is, okay, let's go over this. Ben Affleck as Batman, I think if Batman versus Superman hadn't been critically divisive, or I'd say critically panned, because it was, and if Justice League hadn't been critically panned, we would have gotten a Ben Affleck Batman movie by now. Ben Affleck movie that he was writing and possibly going to direct. Although we found out he himself decided to walk away from playing Batman because he was struggling with alcoholism at the time. He was not doing well in his personal life. And a friend of his read the script that he had written, that he and his co-writer had written for his solo Batman movie, which was going to be called The Batman at the time. Warner Brothers kept that title for the Robert Pattinson movie. So actually, no, before he walked away, he handed directing duties to Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves was going to direct a Ben Affleck Batman movie. Oh. And then Ben Affleck decided to not be Batman anymore because of these ongoing personal issues, health issues, and a friend of his who read the script for The Batman said, this is a great script. It would be a great movie, but you would drink yourself to death if you made this movie. And that was enough. What a good friend to say that to somebody. And what a good person or smart person to listen to that friend. And he said, okay, you're right. I'm going to walk away from this and take care of myself. And he did. So then we were surprised when he came back as a cameo in The Flash. I guess it's more than a cameo from what we know. I guess we don't know much at all. That movie just continues to be a mystery.
We know more about Madam Web than we know about that movie right now.
I don't know.
Well, we know more about people actually appearing in Madam Web.
That's true. But we've seen footage from The Flash.
Yeah.
Regardless of it'll be the same footage we see when it comes out. We don't know that. But Okay, so then he said, I'm coming back for The Flash. And he said that The Flash was really fun to do. I think he said it was his favorite time playing Batman was in The Flash. Wow. And he also said that this definitively is the end of the character, of my version of the character. And based on those comments, based on the fact that Michael Keaton is in it as Batman, based on the fact that we know Michael Keaton is in Batgirl as Batman with the J.K. Simmons version of Commissioner Gordon, who was previously Ben Affleck's Commissioner Gordon, makes us all think that whatever happens in The Flash, timelines change, and all of a sudden Michael Keaton is the main Batman of the DCEU and not Ben Affleck anymore. Whatever, like a Flashpoint kind of thing, where he changes time and changes the reality.
Right.
So, I mean, you have to assume that if Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom now features at least a cameo from Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, this has to come out before The Flash. So, assumedly, right? I think the movie is going to come out before The Flash anyway, and Batgirl's going to come out after The Flash. It's still shocking to me that we haven't heard any news about The Flash based after all these. I heard the other day that it had another test screening.
Really?
Like, what are you still testing this movie for? Like, are you really going to release it with Ezra Miller in it? What?
Right, like even if it tests out fine to people that don't know what the hell they're looking at, like you ultimately, like I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know how they can release it with or as it stands, but that's not my multi-billion-dollar decision.
I know. I agree with you, but also I'm going to go see that movie. There's nothing that's going to stop me from seeing that movie, regardless of who the main character is. I'm going to go see it if it's Ezra Miller. I'm going to go see it if they recast and reshoot. I'm going to go see it.
Mm-hmm.
I wanna see it and I wanna like it.
Yeah.
And that's just me. I understand if people are put off and they don't want to go see it. It could end up bombing because of the flack that Ezra Miller has brought for it. And again, you and I have said many times, and we'll continue to say, we believe that Warner Brothers should spend the money to recast and reshoot that movie, regardless of how long it takes to come out. Don't worry about it. At the
same time, like these testing screenings and all that, I'm pretty sure the generic John Q. public that's going to see this DC movie has no clue anything of what Ezra Miller's got going on. Yeah. And, do you put this out and then just cut ties after?
I don't know. But also, John Q. public also probably wouldn't know if they recast and reshot the movie.
Very true.
It replaced Ezra Miller. Probably also wouldn't know that. And, they're not Marvel. I was having this conversation with Jesse at Funky Town.
Yep.
Where DC, they get flack for not having their shared universe off the ground. They get flack for not putting out as many movies as Marvel. But, like, how many times the last few weeks have we talked about either Marvel fatigue or Marvel movies declining in quality or not looking as good as they should be? We're going to talk about that a little bit later.
We'll be talking more about that again, because why not?
And, like... Or not feeling special because we're just getting hammered with them constantly. If it's not a movie, it's a TV series. If it's not a TV series, it's a movie, or it's like an animated multiverse thing. Like, you got to slow this train down. And we've talked about that a lot lately. DC is still in the place where their movies, to me, feel special because we don't get 4 of them a year plus 4 television shows at the same time. So, like, you can delay The Flash. Nobody's, You can delay that. It's okay. You can take the time that you need to take.
Oh, yeah.
Reshoot that. You can do that.
Well, and it's funny with the Marvel fatigue thing, like not to digress, but we're going to.
I'm going to bring it back in a second, but you can digress as much as you want.
I can't remember if we talked about it last week, but thinking about how they had to condense that whole release schedule, like the beginning of COVID, we were all actually unintentionally excited when there was the break and then we got Marvel again.
Yeah.
But if we didn't have that break, think about it. WandaVision would have come out probably about a year earlier, and like everything would have been spaced out in phase 4, so it wasn't all shoved into a year and a half. Yep. So would we be having this conversation now, or would we still be stuck with Marvel fatigue from before? So it's like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Which one is the realistic one? Who knows? But
yeah, I don't know.
They stretch the accordion back out and Does
But
it
no one ever
change?
talks. Yeah, but no one ever talks about DC fatigue.
No.
And maybe that's because people could argue like, yeah, it's because no one's watching their movies. Blah, blah, blah. I
Well, but at the
I don't
same,
necessarily think that's true.
I think the only fatigue you would see there is if you had someone that was following all 7,000 CW shows.
Yeah. Yes.
If you're
yeah. Exactly.
if you're a diehard Arrowverse stan, you might be having fatigue at this point, just
Yeah.
because up until now there's two left.
Up until last year or
But,
whatever when they started
yeah.
canceling them. Yeah.
Yeah. Before
By the way,
that,
I'm gonna open another tab real quick. But speaking of the CW shows, I
Yep.
recently binged a lot and caught up. Not completely caught up, but did some catching up on Superman and Lois, which is on HBO Max.
yeah, heard good things.
That show is great.
Nice.
It's really great. It's like it feels different from the other Arrowverse stuff because the two main characters are adults,
Right.
and not or like
Adultish.
like the people or are being portrayed as adults also.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
like Barry Allen is an adult, but like there's a lot of like teeny romance and like younger storytelling that's going on. Superman and Lois is about a family. Like they are adults and they have two teenage boys, which is a
Right.
version of Superman and Lois that you've never seen before. They have to like caring for two grown-up kids. One of them has powers, one of them doesn't, so that's like dramatic.
Mhm.
And they handled the depiction of Superman incredibly in a way that movies don't do, because you have more time to like dive into like his thoughts and feelings and responsibilities and stuff. Like he
Right.
said something to like the kid that has powers was like being a little like using them too often to like help himself, in real life or whatever.
Yeah.
And Clark had to sit down and he said something like, I don't know what episode this was. He said something like, do you know how long or do you know how hard it was for me to earn the trust of the people of this world as their protector? Every time I use my powers, I risk losing that trust every single time. And like, that's a concept that has never really been said or explored in a Superman movie, but like, that's true. And that's great. Like he has to be a pinnacle of hope. He has to be Superman.
Right.
In order for people to trust him. I don't know. It was a cool little angle. Anyway, you should watch that show. It's great. And I think season 2 is all on HBO Max now. Anyway.
Right. You're talking to the guy who still can't get through Doom Patrol, even though he really, really wants to.
Even though it's great. Yeah.
Right. Like one of the best things I've seen on TV, still can't find my way through it because time.
Yeah. Time. Anyway, moving things right on back to where we started this whole conversation. Steve, what do you think of Ben Affleck as Batman or Bruce Wayne?
I think I really liked his Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if his Batman was... They're two different people. Like two different characters.
Yeah.
Like I often don't like the Batmans of Bruce Wayne's that I like. See Bale, Comic Christian.
Okay.
Batman was okay. Bruce Wayne was solid. I don't know.
Interesting.
It's a weird... I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like Ben Affleck is an actor where you can tell if he's phoning it in.
Yeah.
But if he's like plugged in, he's great. Like I thought he was really great in Batman versus Superman, even though I don't like that movie at all. I thought he was very good in it.
Yep.
And then I feel like in both versions of Justice League, I feel like you can tell that he's not quite as plugged in as he was in Batman v Superman. Like Batman v Superman got bad reviews, and he was all of a sudden like, okay,
right.
I guess I'm not going to give it my all anymore.
Right, and there were some scenes where you could tell he was there, and then others where it was like non-existent, or just he was present. He got a paycheck.
And there's like in the Zack Snyder version, I'm sure both versions of Justice League heavily utilized CGI and green screen technology, but like Zack Snyder is very well known for shooting things completely on green screen and putting everything in later. So I feel like there are times in Zack Snyder's Justice League where I look at Ben Affleck and I see a guy standing in the middle of a room surrounded by a green wall staring at a tennis ball and just like
you see the Illuminati scene in Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Where John Krasinski is definitively just like, I'm talking to a tennis ball. This is great.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm like, he's not my favorite Batman. I know he's a lot of people's favorite Batman. He's not mine. But I do like that this is continually. I do like the flexibility that DC has over Marvel, and maybe that'll end soon if David Zaslav wants more firm continuity or whatever. As we talked about, the new Warner Brothers CEO has talked about that. But I really like that Ben Affleck as Batman can show up as a cameo. It just creates more connective tissue in the DC EU. It doesn't have to be like firm whatever, but he's there. He's Batman. It works. And we also have Robert Pattinson, and no one cares. Like, it's fine. Like, people are like, yeah, I like that Robert Pattinson movie, but also I'm excited that Ben Affleck's coming back, and I'm excited that Michael Keaton's coming back. Like, that's awesome.
Right.
And that they have that flexibility that Marvel doesn't have, and I think that's really unique.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that, and funny how we were just talking about Zaslav, because another thing that came out this week, I don't think it made the rundown, was a heavy rumor that Chapek had kind of hand-tied Feige. And
oh, really? I hadn't heard this.
That the Thor: Love and Thunder runtime was a edict from above, and that there's been some other things in Phase 4 that have not worked quite as well as things had been planned. So it was a heavy rumor. I didn't want to like push to put it in the rundown because it was kind of like
not confirmed,
not fully substantiated, but you see what can happen when the up above executives are changed, can meddle.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'm sure there's more to develop on that, but
yeah, we'll have to keep our eyes open and see if we hear any more reports on that. I mean, Bob Chapek as CEO of Disney, hasn't necessarily had so far the best track record. Not that Bob, what's his face, Iger, was before him. It would be great if there was like a rule that they could only give it to someone named Bob. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be moving on. It's just the Bobs.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I would like to know more about that.
Yeah, I think if more develops, we'll push that a little more. But
for sure. If anything official happens, we will talk about it. For sure. But anyway, Ben Affleck himself, newly married to Jennifer Lopez. Congratulations, Ben. You are coming back as Bruce Wayne in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. That's supposed to come out sometime in 2023, I believe. I don't remember the exact date, but I'm sure we'll see it before The Flash, if we ever see The Flash. Yeah, I'm just really interested to see what happens. And because I don't know. It's still like, just going back to the difference between DC putting out movies now and then and leaving you the ability to feel excited because you haven't seen, we haven't seen a DC, like the Batman came out early this year. We haven't seen a DC EU movie entry since Suicide Squad last year.
Yeah.
So it's been like a while. So that makes me excited to see another entry in this saga. And it's going to be, or in the DCEU, which is going to be Black Adam this fall. But I don't know that we're going to see anyone else. Unless there's like a surprise cameo, we're probably not going to see Gal Gadot. We're not going to see Ben Affleck. We're probably not going to see Jason Momoa. We're definitely not going to see Ezra Miller in Black Adam or Shazam. Like there might be there's probably a cameo of somebody in Shazam from what I've heard. They were cagey about it at San Diego Comic-Con when someone asked if there was going to be cameos. I think director David Sandberg just said, there's a lot going on in this movie, and I can't really tell you anything specific. It makes me think that maybe we'll get a Gal Gadot cameo or something. Right. Really cool.
Something to tell you without telling you.
Yeah. But again, I don't think we're ever going to see Ezra Miller as a cameo. If we see Ezra Miller in The Flash, that's the last time we're going to see them in a DCEU movie. I almost guarantee it. Yeah. So anyway, Ben Affleck returning as Bruce Wayne in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Very little we know about this movie. I'll be excited when trailers start dropping for this movie. Because the first one, although the script not being great, I've said it before, first Aquaman movie is one of my favorite looking superhero movies. It just looks
very well shot, and it was just
very
fun.
Well shot. Yes. Also, let's open another tab real quick before we move to Marvel. Did you notice in the Shazam trailer, did you notice the Annabelle doll from the Conjuring universe?
No. Random.
Yes. Well, not really, because Annabelle, Annabelle doll, for those of you who haven't noticed, the Annabelle doll from the Conjuring universe and Annabelle series of movies has appeared in 3 DCEU movies.
Really?
Yes, because James Wan, who did The Conjuring, created that idea of the doll. It's in Aquaman. There's like a scene where it's panning along the ocean floor, and there's a bunch of like junk on the ocean floor, and one thing you see is the Annabelle doll.
Yep.
And David Sandberg, who directed Shazam and Shazam 2, the doll is in both Shazam and Shazam 2, or the trailer for Shazam 2, because David F. Sandberg also directed the Annabelle movies, not the Conjuring movies, but like a couple of the spin-off Annabelle movies he did.
Huh.
So
the
Annabelle doll has as many appearances in the DCEU as Henry Cavill does as Superman.
Oh, okay.
Which is pretty funny.
God, that's crazy.
Or sad. Either way, whatever you want to call it.
A little bit of both.
Of both.
Hopefully Cavill has recovered from his COVID, so.
I know.
And
yeah,
apparently,
that's right. Tested positive for COVID last week.
Another tab that delayed Witcher 3 filming, so we'll see what that ends up doing to release date.
Yeah. Speaking of delayed filmings and release dates that don't move when they probably should, Kevin Feige dropped a tiny bit of tidbit of information about the Fantastic Four, saying that confirming that it will not be an origin story. He said, I think a lot of people know this origin story. A lot of people know the basics. How do we take that and bring something that they've never seen before? We've set a very high bar for ourselves with bringing that to the screen. So
makes sense.
Makes sense. Small quote. Not super surprising considering that the original Fantastic Four movie was an origin, and then when they did the first attempt at a reboot that sucked, that was an origin story as well. I feel like this is similar to Spider-Man, where we saw the Tobey Maguire origin, we saw the Andrew Garfield origin. We don't need to see the Tom Holland origin. We don't. We get it. And although Spider-Man more successful and in more people's hearts, I think, sadly at this point, than the Fantastic Four. But
if you just said that 20 years ago, it might be like neck and neck. But Fantastic Four via various things has fallen off a bit as Marvel's first family.
Yeah, not the least of which has been 2 terrible attempts at film adaptations.
Yeah,
I think.
And and it's funny because in 2015, I believe it was, for the first time since Kirby and Co. created the Four, that they didn't have an active Fantastic Four run for
they canceled
probably
the book.
3 or 4 years until Slott came back with his run.
Yeah. Do you know why they canceled the book?
No. Was it a rights thing?
No, they canceled the book because that's when the Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie was coming out, and they were actively trying to not support it in any way so that Fox would give up the rights to Fantastic Four, and then Marvel would get the rights back. Then they ended up just buying the studio instead.
We could do this, or we could just buy it. Okay, we'll do that.
But yeah, that was a big strategy for Marvel because that was the only thing that they could do, because they didn't own the rights to the characters, but they didn't own the film rights, but they owned comic rights and they owned merchandising rights. So think back a few years. Do you ever remember seeing any toys or toys or statues or action figures or anything, dolls about the last few X-Men movies or the Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie? Nope. You don't, because they don't exist, because Marvel didn't make them, because they didn't want to support those movies, because they wanted the rights to revert back to their own studio.
That makes sense.
And they went so far as to cancel the Fantastic Four comic book that had been running since 1963 or whatever the hell, for the first time.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Bold strategy. They didn't cancel the X-Men because Fantastic Four wasn't like their highest selling book, so I think they could afford to cancel it.
They had fallen off a bit as far as popularity already by that point. So
yeah, they could not afford to cancel X-Men books because
all 7,000.
Exactly, and all 7,000 are hot sellers, so they couldn't cancel them. But what they could do is they mandated that the writers could not create any new characters because under the current agreement, any new character would immediately be eligible to be used in a film. And so they didn't want some hot new character blowing up and then blowing up in the movies as well. Yeah.
And that's where the Earth Inhumans thing came, and the Terrigen plot was all to create effectively the same thing, but without the word mutants.
Correct.
So they took Blackagar, Boltagon, and co. and somehow made it so that people living on the moon are the same as people in Earth because of some mist and comic bookiness.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Totally makes sense.
Anyway, I think this is a good idea. I don't want to see the Fantastic Four origin again. I remember not hating the original Fantastic Four movie, although I haven't seen it in a long time. I have no plans to watch it again anytime soon or ever. I don't remember hating it as much as I thought, okay, the next one's going to be good, because it took them the entire movie to get their powers and learn their powers and understand their powers enough to use them. And I was like, that whole movie is like a 2-hour origin story. And so I was like, okay, so the next one, they're just going to start being the Fantastic Four and it's going to be great. And that movie I think was better, but it's still not fantastic. No pun intended. And then the Josh Trank one's awful. But I feel like because it's 4 characters, they all have to go. They have to go to space. They have to get bombarded with cosmic rays. They have to come back. They have to realize something's different. They have to get their powers. They have to realize what they are, and they have to use them and then decide to be a team and then know how to use them together and use them to good. That's 4 characters you have to do all of those steps with.
Right.
My God, it takes a long time. So please just jump in, or do your Marvel MCU thing where you like set it up in another movie, and so then you can just run with it by the time the actual Fantastic Four movie comes out.
Now, since he's not playing Cap currently, does Chris Evans reprise his role as Johnny Storm?
I've heard people say this online that they want that to happen. No. I don't really want that to happen. I can see if they push forward with this multiverse thing, that could be a big like gag that gets a reaction in the theater or whatever, but I don't want to see that. Like, to me, that's just... So
I did just realize, too, both Johnny Storms are MCU actors who are both deceased.
Wow, you're right. Because Michael B. Jordan.
Yep.
As well. Nah, we don't know that...
Oh, yeah. Technically, old Cap is just old.
He's just old Joe Biden-looking dude.
Creepily so.
Yeah, weirdly looks exactly like Joe Biden in that old person makeup in Endgame. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, because Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger.
Yep.
Good point.
So they're both open. Just saying.
They're both open. Did you know that originally Deadpool 2, they wanted to use the Fantastic Four characters, the Josh Trank Fantastic Four characters?
Oh, really? 2? Instead of X-Force to kill off?
I don't know if it was going to be the same thing. It was like an early version of the script that had the Fantastic Four in it, which would, because they were both Fox properties at that time, so they could have done that. But yeah, they didn't. Anyway, this is a good idea. It's too much of an origin. Just get to it and give us another adventure, please.
Yep.
Because I want that. Anyway, we teased this earlier. This actually came out the last Tuesday when we did our show. The show we're doing now is less than a week later than our last episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this might have dropped the same day, and I knew that we were talking about so much San Diego Comic-Con stuff that we just weren't going to be able to fit it in or do it justice. We were also mentioning the fact that Marvel was again accused of not paying its comic book creators enough when the characters they create get adapted to film. So we're already taking one shot at Marvel, but here we go with another one. A report from Vulture came out last week, and it's a report, but it's written in the first person. It's written from a current VFX artist, visual effects artist in the industry. The title of this article is, children, plug your ears. The title of this article is I'm a VFX artist, and I'm tired of getting pixel fucked by Marvel. Now, if you read this article, which you can find on vulture.com, the term pixel fucked is a term that is used in the VFX industry when clients are being way too particular about certain things, sometimes certain things that nobody would notice or you won't even make a difference, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, this is it's not the longest article, so it's definitely worth a read, and it's written by an anonymous person in the VFX industry. And I pulled a few quotes from it as well, and then we're going to talk about it. So these are some sections from the article. It says, to get work, VFX houses have to bid on a project. They all are trying to come in right under another one's bids. With Marvel, the bids will all typically come in quite a bit under, and Marvel is happy with that relationship because it saves them money. But what ends up happening is that all the Marvel projects tend to be understaffed, where I would usually have a team of 10 VFX artists on a non-Marvel movie. On one Marvel movie, I got 2, including myself, so every person is doing more work than they need to. So because the studio is
lowballing, they're trying to
lowballing the price
everything,
to try to get the work, they then can't afford to put the amount of people that should be on a project on that project. And you're saying that an entire Marvel movie had 2 VFX artists? Like, that's not enough for a 2-hour CG fest that is a Marvel movie. That is not enough.
But that does, again, also start to lend towards some of the issues we've been seeing recently in some of the shows where, you know, those 2 guys or girls or whoever can only work on so much. And do you polish up the fancy boat scene in Moon Knight, flowing through all the sea of reeds and whatever? Or do you fix the logs in episode 1? And by episode 6, most people have forgotten about those logs.
Yeah, but not you and me, my friend.
Right. We're just going to always bring it back to the logs.
Another excerpt from this article. The other thing with Marvel is it's famous for asking for lots of changes throughout the process. So you're already overworked, but then Marvel's asking for regular changes way in excess of what any other client does. And some of those changes are really major. Maybe a month or 2 before a movie comes out, Marvel will have us change the entire 3rd act. It has really tight turnaround time. So yeah, it's just not a great situation all around. Entire 3rd act? My God. And speaking of the entire 3rd act, the last part that I pulled from this article is, the other issue is, when we're in post-production, we don't have a director of photography involved because they're done. They shot the movie, so they're gone. Right. So I guess they're not involved in this process. So we're coming up with the shots a lot of the time. It causes a lot of incongruity. A good example of what happens in these scenarios is the battle scene at the end of Black Panther. The physics are completely off. Suddenly, the characters are jumping around, doing all these crazy moves like action figures in space. Suddenly, the camera is doing these motions that haven't happened in the rest of the movie. It all looks a bit cartoony. It has broken the visual language of the film.
And that explains a big complaint from Black Panther, and pretty much the only complaint in the entire movie.
Everybody loves Black Panther, but if you're going to complain about it, it's that the 3rd act turns into kind of a generic CGI fest superhero movie.
Yep.
And I meant to bring this up when we talked last week about the amazing trailer for Black Panther Wakanda Forever that we both love. Yeah. I saw one person say, hey, this was someone on Twitter saying, don't get too excited about the Black Panther trailer, because remember what happened after the last one, and showed shots from the original Black Panther trailer and then showed the versions of those shots in the movie, and the versions of the movie looked like bad CGI or unfinished or rushed CGI, where the shot from the original trailer was like practical background, clearly a person outside. You know, it was a scene in one of the last battle scenes where T'Challa's walking towards Killmonger with his arms open like this. In the trailer, that was shot what it looked like it looked like a real background, but then the version from the movie was like, oh, the head is clearly on a CGI body, and it's like definitely a different background. Like it was, I think when you take still shots like that, it's way easier to see weird effects when 100%. It's still versus when it's like moving. He just goes kind of right over you. So I mean, this besides the Reddit stuff that blew up on social a couple weeks ago, this is a official report from an official outlet. So I don't think these complaints are going to go away. And clearly, they just announced phase 5 and 6, and they're not taking any time off in between those phases. It seems like this is going to be a thing that continues until the movies just look terrible completely, or they implode. I don't know. Or VFX houses. I cannot say VFX. I always want to say VXF every single time. I don't know if you've noticed me correcting myself every time I've tried to say that. Until these VFX houses start refusing to do the work.
Right. Or just come to some gentleman's agreement to not lowball everything so you can put the appropriate amount of people on it.
Yeah, I know. Like would it hurt Marvel so much if they took a year off between phases to like just give some people some extra time to develop these things?
Hey, it worked for post-COVID. When
it
WandaVision
really did.
came out, all of us forgot that we had gotten 8,000 things right in a row.
Yeah. And WandaVision looks great.
Yeah.
Because they probably had some extra time to work on it. A lot of those early shows look great, probably because they had extra time to work on it. The schedule had to be pushed around.
Right.
And I remember thinking Black Widow looked great too. So, and I mean, that was supposed to come out, but who knows if they went back to do any, if they love last minute changes as much as they seem to.
Right. You would think they just
last minute changes
bring it back.
And worked on a little bit harder. So, I mean, this seems to be an ongoing thing. I don't know. Just take the time, man. I don't need the story so bad that I'd rather have a movie look like shit.
Right.
Than to wait longer. Like, I would rather wait longer for a great looking movie, like the DC stuff we were just talking about.
Yeah.
You know, like DC, Aquaman and The Flash were supposed to come out this year, and they switched dates with Black Adam and Shazam
because they weren't done.
And they wanted to give the VFX houses the proper amount of time to finish those effects. Yo, if I'm Warner Brothers, I tweeted something about this from our Twitter account recently because David F. Sandberg talked about he does like YouTube videos. He has a YouTube channel that he talks about like how he makes movies and like things that they discovered. It's really interesting channel. He's got some really cool videos about like making of Shazam and stuff, you know. But you know, he put out a video talking about the effects in the trailer and stuff and how things were done, and I retweeted it from the Multiverse Report Twitter account saying like, yo, if I'm Warner Brothers, I am shouting from the mountaintops right now about our great relationship with VFX houses. Like, make this a thing. Because
publicize it.
Because those effects look great. Like, the dragon in that Shazam trailer looks awesome. And, you know, Black Adam punching the wing off that jet looks awesome. And I guarantee you that whenever we see Aquaman, I mean, Aquaman set a high bar for itself, so they know that movie's got to look great. The sequel to Aquaman has to look just as good or better. And The Flash, all this weird, like, Speed Force, multiversal stuff, like, that's got to look great, too. You know, Supergirl's in that movie, so she's got to look great. So, and they're taking the time that needs to be taken.
Yeah.
Unlike Marvel, that is just so committed. It just seems like they're tying their own hands at this point. They're like so committed to their timeline and their constant like cranking out of stuff. I don't know. If they took a year off, even
6 months,
anything, like they took any amount of time off, I feel like build the desire to see it come back a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like it's waning. It's waning from me. Yeah, I know that there are plenty of people that can't get enough, and they want the story more than they want it to look good. I'm not a person. I would rather have a great looking and sounding and whatever else produced movie than just to like know what happens.
I need both. If you're gonna put out this multi-billion-dollar blockbuster, it better also look the part.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's the only thing that's going to get me into theaters rather than just waiting and watching it at my house.
Right. Yeah, because otherwise you just like draw stick figures on a flip pad and be like, this is what happens with Thor.
Yep.
There. You happy? You know what happens. Or I'll just hire a director to come out and tell people, this is what happens in the next Thor movie. You don't have to worry about it because it just was going to look terrible anyway. I'll just tell you.
Even better, I'll just go pick up like the Jason Aaron Thor run. Or
yeah, exactly.
Like also get a visual medium for seeing things that are happening. So
Yeah. Oh, you want a Thor story that looks better than the effects in Love and Thunder? Then,
Well,
just pick up
yeah.
a comic book because they look great.
Go read Thor: God of Thunder or The Mighty Thor from Jason Aaron. Enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, speaking of comics, we're moving into comics. We got a couple cool things announced this week. One thing that I'm pretty excited about: DC is celebrating the 30th anniversary of the death of Superman, a landmark event. I can't believe it's been 30 years, but this is an event that brought a lot of people into comics, got a lot of people to care about comics, got a lot of people to buy comics thinking that they would someday be worth millions of dollars. And this was the event that almost ensured that any comic bought from the 90s on will never be worth millions of dollars. This was it. But it was also, Steve, I don't know about you. I'm only a few years older than you, so maybe that's enough of an age difference. But like, when I heard that DC was killing Superman, that was like just enormous, huge, mind-blowing news that I needed every issue of everything. I needed to know what happened. I need to know how he came back. Like, this can't be possible. I need to know. I need to know. So like, Death of Superman was like a huge event in my life. And for this 30th anniversary, they are bringing back the original team of writers and artists: Dan Jurgens, Brett Breeding, Roger Stern, Butch Guice, Louise Simonson, and Jean Bogdavone, and Jerry Ordway, and Tom Grummett will all be returning for the Death of Superman 30th Anniversary Special #1 coming out in November. They're also bringing back the classic armbands that they sold. They sold like morning arm, like black bands to wear on your arm with a Superman symbol, and issues that came in like black bags with the Superman S dripping with blood on it. Like, they're bringing those back as well. Like,
wow.
really going to it. So, Steve, I know you're a Marvel guy, but like, was the Death of Superman something that was on your radar back in the 90s?
No, it definitely, I mean, part of it is me growing up in the middle of the woods and only being exposed to comics when I got to,
when you got out of the woods.
Got out of the woods. But, but no, it never hit back in like, what was it, 92, 93? Somewhere in there.
Two. If the 30th anniversary is this November, then it's
hey, that's how math works?
Yeah, that's how math works. Exactly.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Hindsight, probably could have figured that one out. But yeah, no, back then, I mean, I would have been 8-ish. So that was kind of on the leading end of the...
Yeah, I was probably 9 or 10.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So...
this was like just a huge deal because they never had done anything like that before.
Mm-hmm.
Now they do stuff like that all the time. But it was just huge, and it attracted so many people. It brought so many people into comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't collect. I don't know why I didn't start buying the books that led up to the death, but every book that came after, because like he was replaced by 4 different Supermen, and you had to follow 4 different runs of Superman.
Hey, welcome to the X-Men.
Yeah, right. It was Superman, Action Comics, Man of Steel, and what was the other? There's like a 4th Superman book. Superboy, because one of them was Superboy.
Okay.
So you had to follow. Maybe it wasn't Superboy. I don't know. But you had to follow all 4 to like figure out why they were all there, why they were replacing Superman. One was a bad one, and one ended up being like one of the big bads behind the whole thing. So it was a huge event. It was a huge deal, and I gotta say, I just this weekend, even before reading this news, at again Funky Town Comics, I bought the issue, holding it right here in my hands, of the Death of Superman 75. I like I said, I bought tons of stuff after this, but I never bought this, and this was $7 at Funky Town Comics. Why is it only $7? Because again, they printed millions of them because millions of people wanted them. This was the event that killed any kind of possibility that your comics are going to be ever worth anything. And I've never actually read it, so I'm going to read this. I'm not just going to keep it in the thing. I'm going to actually read it. I've read like panels from it and stuff, but I'm going to actually read it, and I'm very excited about it. So 30th anniversary of the Death of Superman. And it's going to be like an anthology book, I think, and like telling stories in and around the events of what went on. Like, I don't think Jonathan Kent existed as a son at that point, but I know one of the stories is going to be if he was, and being a kid in school, finding out that his dad just got killed, like what's that like, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that's going to be probably pretty emotional kind of stuff. So Death of Superman, 30th anniversary special #1 coming out in November. Over on the Marvel side, Marvel just announced a new Captain America event, not Civil War, but Cold War. Captain America Cold War features Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson teaming up for an adventure concerning the origins of Steve's shield, a revenge-seeking Crossbones, and the return of Nomad. Which version of Nomad? They do not specify. But this is an event that starts in the spring of 2023. This is a very vague plot description, but it seems like they are capitalizing on the Civil War thing that has become such a recognizable phrase in Marvel Comics. I feel like what else could we do? Oh, let's do something called Cold War. Sure, yeah. Is this something that's lighting your world on fire?
I'll probably either pull it or grab the first one just to check it out. Cap in comics, I've never been never been a huge fan of. I have no idea why. Like every Cap book I've ever read, I've thought, hey, this is pretty good, but just never ended up on my pull. So always a fan of the character, always a fan of what they've been doing, but never really, right in the thick of whatever Cap was doing at the time.
Yep. Well, cool. We shall see. It doesn't start till spring of 2023, so we got some time. You got some time to think about it, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely.
if you want to pull it or not. Well,
Which
anytime.
I believe at that same or similar time, wasn't there a Bucky or Wakanda tie-in going on too?
Yeah, I think you might be right. I don't remember exactly what, but it sounds familiar.
But I think they're starting that with the Wakanda Forever tie-in.
Yes, because they're doing an anthology for Wakanda Forever, this November. Yep.
And then however long that runs, whether it's an ongoing or whether it's a miniseries or whatever, I think they'll probably pick this one up whenever that one finishes.
Yeah, leads up into something else. Cool. This week in your local comic book store, you got Aquaman Andromeda #2. I cannot wait for that. Batman 126. I cannot wait for that. Batman Killing Time #6. I can't wait for the collected edition of this because I fell off and it was a cool story. Closet #3, Dark Crisis #3, Flashpoint Beyond #4, Ghost Rider #5, Harley Quinn #18, Immortal X-Men #5, Moon Knight #14, New Champion of Shazam #1. This is a book, I think written and drawn by Doc Shaner, great artist.
Really?
Doc Shaner.
Nice.
That is about Mary Marvel as the new champion of Shazam. Not Shazam himself, but his member of the Shazamily, Mary Marvel. Very excited about that. I've seen some preview artwork. Looks amazing. Poison Ivy #3. This is a series that I very much love. Steve, I don't know if you've gotten to read those first 2 issues yet, but I cannot wait to see what happens in this issue.
They've made it to the top of the pile for me. I literally, while I was waiting for you,
so
I was
close.
like, should I crack it? And then I'm like, well, what if he shows up? I don't want to get into it and then.
Yeah. Spider-Man 2099, that should say.
The new
Exodus.
2099 Exodus.
Yeah, #5. That'd be great if they just did a throwback. What was Spider-Man doing in 2009? Survival Street #1, That Texas Blood #16, Two Gun Terror #1, and X-Men 92 #3. Lots of cool stuff going on in your comic book store this weekend. What do you got? What are you reading? What are you reading right now, Steve? You're not reading Poison Ivy. What are you looking at?
That just showed up. So
Ooh,
rereading the
Ta-Nehisi
Ta-Nehisi Coates
Black Panther
run. After we talked about it last week, I was like, you know what? My Marvel Unlimited elapsed, so I'm working through my floppies and trades, and I was like, I just need to have a physical copy of that. So
yeah.
I now have it was like a 1, 2, and 3, the trades.
Nice.
So
cool.
Read it once, read it again.
There you go. I love a reread. I feel like I don't have time for rereads as much as I used to, but I love a reread. It's the best.
Oh yeah.
I spent this one night this weekend. I was up very late. I decided to remember like a year ago, my basement flooded and
Yeah.
I
Yep.
lost some comic books tragically. When I was just frantically like pulling stuff out of my wet, flooded basement, the comic books that were dry, I had to fish out the ones that were wet, find the ones that were dry, try to dry them out or like whatever, and the ones that were dry, I just shoved back into whatever boxes I could, and not organized at all. I finally took the time to start reorganizing my books by box and by like chronology. So, Steve, I can't tell you the amount of Batman books that I have. It's a lot.
It's I have to laugh because I literally was doing the same thing like 2 nights ago.
Oh wow,
like,
really?
Pulled out any boxes I had, and I was like, all right, I need to reconnoiter because I had a stack of stuff that I needed to file away, and I was like,
and I needed to put the new ones. I needed
right,
bag and board them and put them in the boxes.
And I came up with a new system for how I know I haven't read something, and the whole.
Oh, there you go.
I'm starting to bag and board everything, and then I will tape it shut if I've read it. I will leave it open if I have not.
Oh, so, nice.
I was like, yeah, that way I know I have enough bags and boards.
Yeah.
And I also know if I've read or not read. I was like, that'll work.
The earliest book that I should say that the earliest book that I have that I got in my lifetime. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
I have older books than this, but like basically the first comic book I remember having is this Batman 445, and it's like a beginning of a story arc where he's like in Russia fighting the KG Beast or whatever.
Right.
And I have 446. What I don't have is the continuing the third volume of 447. But guess what? I found it at Funky Town Comics this past weekend.
You had a
now
week there, man.
I can finally finish the story arc that I started reading when I was 10? I don't know, 8 probably.
That's great.
Or even less than that. I was probably 6. It's like I remember that I was sick, and my dad brought me home a Batman comic, and I think that was the one that it was, or I could be wrong. But I have a couple from around that time. I also we were talking about Jenny Frison covers, how she's doing great stuff for like Something Is Killing Children, and I picked up this Catwoman book because this cover by her I just think is incredible. I just think it looks so good. She draws Catwoman so well. I believe that I started when Ram V was still doing Catwoman. I only started reading his run on Catwoman because of her covers. Like I saw a cover that she drew that I was like, I'm buying that book just because that cover is incredible. And I read it and I was like, oh, this is great. Oh, this is Ram V. Oh man, I'm going to finish this arc.
Which now he's starting this week. He's getting his run at Batman, right?
On Detective Comics, which I also read. I bought and read, which is also very cool.
Nice.
But yeah, so the same thing happened with this. This is Teenie Howard's run on Catwoman, which I started reading.
Oh, sweet.
I thought it was okay. I didn't like as much as the Ram V one, so I stopped pulling it. But this cover, I don't know. I haven't read it yet. But maybe it's gonna suck me back in. I don't know, because if she keeps doing the covers, then I might just keep buying them. It's just not a good thing. Not a good thing to do, to buy a comic when you're not going to read it. I mean, I don't know. For me, having just gone through my entire collection and having them all over the floor of this basement a night ago, just in a giant mess, and I still have to finish organizing them. I'm just telling myself, like, I really should only buy comics that I really want to read. And then one day later, I bought this book that I don't really have an intention of reading just because I like the cover. So it's my toxic trait.
If you saw our Twitter feed earlier in the week, I did toss a picture out of that was when I was doing the same thing you're talking about. Found a bunch of classics like Iron Man 271, Mighty Thor 435, which wasn't even Thor Odinson. It was when Eric, what's his face, assumed the mantle. It was a really weird Brief. Time. Yeah. Hence why Thor has a machine gun. Daredevil and Ghost Rider in Daredevil 295, and then a Guardians of the Galaxy protege cover. Wow. And the team, like, I looked up the team and I was like, I know Yondu. Like, I know I read that book. I know I read it a lot as a kid, actually.
Yeah.
But, like, did not register most of what was happening. But all those are, like, 91, 92-ish. And, I was just sitting there. They've got the 50 years cap logo on it, so.
Yep, I remember that logo. That's great. While we're talking, I also got book 3 of The Dark Knight Returns at Funky
Ooh.
Town recently for $20. Pretty cool. Original run. 3rd book, Frank Miller. Yeah, pretty great.
Yeah, that's most all of the Wolverine 83 Frank Miller I grabbed down there too. So.
Oh wow, nice. We should do that more often on our socials, our Instagram and our Twitter. Just like tweet or just post pictures of like cool
Random
books that we have.
Yeah,
that we have in our collection. That'd be cool. We should do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look for that online on our social medias, Multiverse Report watchers and listeners.
I was going to say Multiverse Reporters, but that doesn't really work.
Multiverse reporters. Reportees.
Then they're reporting to us. Yeah, reportees. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, we only got 2 one-shots, which is fine because despite this not being a super heavy news week, we've been talking a long time. So kicking off this first one-shot, MGM Studios has lost the rights to Tomb Raider. This is tangential, but Tomb Raider's well within the genre of film that we like here at the Multiverse Report. The studio, apparently under their initial contract, had until May 2022 to greenlight a sequel to the 2018 Tomb Raider film starring Alicia Vikander, but they didn't do that, and now the rights are up for grabs. It is safe to assume that they will land at another studio, and whatever new incarnation of Tomb Raider that we find next will not be a continuation of the 2018 Tomb Raider, and that Alicia Vikander will probably be recast. I never saw that movie, but I heard pretty good things about it. I heard it was a lot of fun, and I heard that she was really good as Lara Croft. So that's kind of a bummer if she was somebody that was very good in the role and now probably will not be sticking around for it. That's a bummer, but what are you going to do? The studio didn't hit their mark.
Nope.
So,
Now, on the other side of studios hitting their mark, mostly because they buy other studios, She-Hulk director or She-Hulk head writer Jessica Gao didn't think they'd ever be able to use Matt Murdock or Daredevil in She-Hulk, which, if anyone saw the trailer, he shows up in costume at the end.
Sure, it does.
I believe this statement is official confirmation that is not D-Man, that is in fact Daredevil.
Not D-Man, it's not Bullseye in the Daredevil suit like in season 3. It is actually Matt Murdock, Daredevil.
Yes. So apparently because when they started writing and filming, because of the rights issues, they weren't sure if any of the Netflix characters would be able to be used. And I believe in the quote, it was something similar to that of, initially referencing, I didn't think we'd be able to use them, before clarifying that she was talking about Matt Murdock himself. So we'll see whether it's more Murdock, whether it's more Daredevil, or what we see.
I know, it's funny. She uses them, and I mean, them obviously can be used as a singular, but it can also be used as a plural. Was she saying, I didn't know we could use them because we're going to see more than just Matt Murdock show up in this?
Right. Do you get JJ? Do you get Luke?
I don't know. We also got, spontaneous one shot.
Yep.
That if it was true, we would have been in the regular rundown, because I saw this reported. I did not see an official report that the Punisher got a green light of another series at Disney Plus.
I can't imagine that being.
I can't imagine that being true.
I saw it as well, but yeah, I don't know. I
think that's just fan hopefulness,
right?
To be honest,
John Bernthal killed it as Frank Castle.
Yeah, incredible.
I don't know if the time is right now for a new Punisher series.
Like, we just got the announcement of a Daredevil thing, and we got that after him being in a movie and another character being in a show.
Yeah.
And the announcement of them being in another show, Echo, all of that before we got official announcement of a Daredevil series. I don't think Punisher is going to be the next one. I think we're probably going to get more of those Netflix characters. I don't think Punisher is going to be the next one that we hear about.
No.
And if we ever do get a Punisher on Disney Plus, spoiler alert, it's not going to be as good as the one we got on Netflix, because I don't think Disney Plus is gonna make an exception to their PG-13 ratings unless it's Deadpool. And I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't think
Logan.
we're getting that. Yeah. But I think if they do move forward with the Punisher, they have to do it in a way that distances the Punisher from what many alt-right, conservative, maniacal people believe the Punisher to be.
Right.
So I want them to do that, but only if they're going to make that separation. Anyway, that's what I think. So I don't think that's really true either, but I guess I just wanted to bring it up in case you would have heard anything else, because we hadn't talked about it, so I didn't know.
No, I had heard the same thing, like the same birdies chirping, but nothing with substance and nothing that seems like it would make sense.
We'll get updates on Jessica Jones and Luke Cage way before we get anything on Punisher. I
would think so. Yeah.
Sure. That's all the news we got, people. If you are looking for something to watch, you should know that both Paper Girls has dropped fully. All 8 episodes of Paper Girls is now on Amazon Prime. The first 3 episodes of Harley Quinn are on HBO Max. I have not watched either of those things.
Same.
But I'm going to try to this week because this Friday, August 5th, Sandman drops on Netflix.
Yep.
Prey, the new Predator movie, drops on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
And the Star Wars Lego special also drops on Disney+. And
Absolutely.
then later in the month, we're getting She-Hulk, Andor, and House of the Dragon. And then early September, we're getting Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. So lots of stuff coming out. And while we're talking about stuff, I didn't watch any of that stuff, but I did watch something that I need to recommend. And I should have said this at the top of the podcast because I don't know who's still listening. But if you're still listening, you're getting a good recommendation. If you haven't already heard this recommendation, if you're at all involved in movie conversations, then you probably have heard about this movie. And I'm going to say to you too, Steve, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Have you heard about this movie?
I've heard it. I've heard that I need to see it. I've heard it is the best multiverse movie you will ever see.
Marvel wishes it was as good as this movie when it comes to the multiverse. I don't want to tell you anything about it. All I knew about this movie is that it starred Michelle Yeoh, and it was about a multiverse thing. I didn't know anything else about it. I told my wife, I was like, hey, you want to watch this movie? I've heard it's incredible, and this is all I know about it. And she said, yes. And we both absolutely loved it. It was unlike... It's hard to say the word multiverse around nerds.
Yeah.
And say this following thing that I'm about to say and have it be true, but it was true for me. It is unlike any movie I've ever seen.
All right. I think I'm in.
And you could be like, I saw the Doctor Strange movie, and that dealt with multiverses, so I think I've seen it before. Nah, you don't know. You don't know shit. You don't know shit. See, it's called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, and it stars, amongst many other talented actors, Short Round from Indiana Jones.
I heard he had made his
Grown Up
and Goonies.
Yes, and Goonies. Yep.
So.
Yep. And he's great.
Nice.
I don't know why he stopped acting for a while, but he's back in a big way. And Michelle Yeoh is incredible in it as well. And Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. I don't know. It's like, it's wild. It's hilarious. And it's just takes turns that you just never would have expected ever. And it's emotional. It's, oh man, it's so good. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Everybody go see it. You don't need to know anything else about it. Just start watching it. Rent it on Amazon Prime. Find it somewhere, whatever. Watch it.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say, Steve. Do you have anything else to say to these people?
Well, I would say if you're poking around trying to find that movie, you can also poke your way on over to themultiverseport.com or, check us out on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts, iTunes, that little one called iTunes. Feel free to like, subscribe, leave a review, helps us out. And check us out on the socials, the Multiverse Report, Multiverse Report on most of them, Multiverse RPT on Twitter. I'm at Dutch Hart, Mike's at Carol's Kid with a K. And beyond that, I think we're good.
I think we're good. So until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse.